What's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we are back with the Wave Report number 13. It's been a couple of weeks, but let's get it in. First bit of news, Inoue is injured, undisclosed injury, and the fight with Stephen Fulton is going to be postponed to July 25th, right? So the fight date was scheduled for May, sometime in May, but they're going to postpone it, and it's still going down. So that's good. You know, I mean, it stinks that the fight is postponed and it's going to get rescheduled. So unfortunately, people who paid tickets already have, booked their flight tickets to go out there. Whoever's in, I've been thinking about doing it. So whoever was thinking about going to fight, it sucks for them because the fight is getting rescheduled. But at least the fight is still going down. So it's being postponed, not canceled, because this is the fight we want. This is the fight we need from both fighters. If you're a fan of both fighters, I think this is the best test for both fighters going into the fight. Regardless of who you think is going to win the fight, this is an amazing test for both fighters and one of the best scheduled fights of the year, in my opinion. All right, so in a way, Fulton's still on, but it's going to happen towards the end of July. Hopefully everything works out from this point on. I don't know what the injury is. I don't know what the details of the injury is. But as long as the fight is still going down, Inoue probably just needs some time to recover from whatever it is he's injured from. And at least Fulton is still on to take this fight. I love the fact that both fighters really, really want this fight. And the promoters, none of that. The politics is not getting in the way of that. And Fulton has his 2 titles. And I just can't wait to see this fight go down. All right. So next bit of news. Hector Garcia, he's going to be making his return since losing to Tank Davis up at 135. He's going to be making his return back down at 130 to defend his WBA world title against Lamont Roach Jr. All right. Lamont Roach, solid fighter, good technical fighter, not flashy, not explosive or anything, not a big puncher. This is probably be a technical fight. I think for the most part, though, I think this fight should be a good one because Hector loves to let his hands go. I mean, he's a good boxer. He's a good counterpuncher, but he likes to let his hands go too. You know, I haven't seen a couple of fights that I've seen from him. He seemed to be an aggressive boxer. You know what I'm saying? And I think the fight should be a pretty good fight. You know, a good matchup. Lamont Roach has been in there with Rene Alvarado. He's been in there with what's his face? He's been in there with I can't think of it. He's been in there for Jamel Herring. So he's been in there with Jamel Herring. He's been in there with a good amount of fighters, and I think it should be a good scrap. It should be a okay scrap. The WBA ordered the fight. I don't know what date we're going to get exactly. I don't know if it's going to be its own card or anything like that, but it should be a good scrap. Lamont Roach is definitely game, and it should be a good fight. I'm leaning towards Hector to win that one, but Lamont Roach is no pushover. It's definitely going to be a technical fight. All right, so it's not a bad fight. Now, let's talk about 126. I've been making so much content on 126 lately, but we got just want to update you guys with what's going on a little bit. So Mauricio Lara and Lee Wood just was officially announced. The rematch is officially announced yesterday during the Joshua Franklin card that they're going to have their rematch on May 27th, okay? And on the same date on BT Sports or Top Rank, we're going to get Luis Alberto Lopez. He's going to be fighting against Michael Conlan, all right? He's going to be defending his title as well at 126. Both of these fights are going to be on the same date, just on different cards. I hate when that happens, especially when the fights actually go down around at the same exact time, like the main event. I cannot stand this because this is a good fight. I'm definitely going to want to cover these fights, but I hate when these fights go down at the same time. I really, really do, because it's always going to bring, especially when you're doing live commentary. We just had that with Benavidez and Plant, against Ramirez and Comey. And I know Benavidez and Plant was a bigger fight by far, but there were still people that wanted to hear commentary on the Ramirez Comey fight. So, but both fights, good fights that we want to see. We know the history. If you don't know the history of these two, Lopez just beat Josh Warrington in a very, very close decision fight. And you know, he's going on to fight Mike Conlan, who had previously lost to Lee Wood in one of the best fights of the year last year. So he's already picked up a win. All right. And now he is going to be fighting Luis Alberto Lopez, which is a good fight. I honestly think that Mike Conlan, on a boxing aspect, could bring a little bit more than what Josh Warrington was going to bring. Warrington was very aggressive. You know, he was leading in with his head too much. I didn't like the dirty tactics in the Lopez fight. I didn't like the dirty tactics in the Mauricio Lara fight, right? But Lara, who just beat Lee Wood, right, stopped him. He was losing, and he was down bad on points, and he looked like he was fading as the fight went on. But we already know he has one punch knockout power. We saw what he was able to do against Josh Warrington, and now we just saw what he was able to do against Lee Wood. And now they're gonna run it back, you know. So I was hoping I'd rather those two run it back than watching the Josh Warrington Lee Wood third fight, because we already saw what happened in the first fight. I don't know how Josh Warrington got a title opportunity again, but he did. And then they ran it back again, and it ended with cuts early in the fight through the headbutts. And we just don't want to see it no more, you know. So I actually like these two set of fights. We also have Ramirez, Robesi Ramirez. He just beat Isaac Dobe last night, so he's a champion now. All right, so we have a lot of champions, a lot of fights. Ramirez is a new champion. Lopez is a champion as well. Who else? Lopez, Mauricio Lara, and then we also have Ray Vargas. All right, so I hope after they all get their fights out of the way, let's get some unifications, because we haven't had a unification match at 126 for over a decade. I keep repeating this, and as much as I love these fights, these are all good matchups. I just want to get that unification match somewhere. All right. So anyway, let's move on for the next bit of news. Virgil Ortiz Jr. against Stanionis has been postponed again. All right. The first time Stanionis suffered an injury, they had to postpone it, and now it's being postponed again. Don't know official date. But Virgil Ortiz is suffering from rhabdomyolysis for the second time. All right. The last time he suffered it, he had to postpone the fight with McKinson, right? Pardon me if I'm saying the name wrong, but his last fight, that was rescheduled because he suffered an injury then, and now he's suffering again. Basically, he has damage to the muscles around his waist area, and it's partly due to overtraining. All right, and you know, having it for his second year in a row, something, I don't know what's going on, but something needs to change with him and his health. You know, if this is going to be a constant issue, there's a lot of bigger fights on the way that we want from him. And we do want, a lot of us fans want to see him fight the Errol Spences, the Terrence Bud Crawfords, the, you know, Boots Ennises of the world. All those fights are good. Stanionis is one of them as well. Can't sleep on that. But he has to get his health together. I don't know what's going on. You know, I know there was fighters out there, and I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to pass, you know, this kind of free. But there's a fighter out there who's trying to insinuate that Virgil Ortiz is on something dirty. He's taking some kind of PEDs, you know, and I don't know if it's that. I don't think it's that. You know, I figured that Virgil Ortiz might just really be overtraining, you know, and it's causing him to suffer from, you know, this issue. But whatever it is, you know, he has to take it easy, you know. It's good to hear. I'd rather hear that a fighter's overtraining than undertraining. But, you know, he has to take care of his health for real. Like, this is the second year in a row. And if he's going to just keep getting this kind of injury, it's not a good look for him, you know. So I want to see this fight still. It's saying postponed. There's been 2 postponements, but they're still sticking to the fight as of right now. All right, so there hasn't been any changes. I know people ask me, like, who would I rather, Stanionis move on to fight? I would love Stanionis to fight Boots and all the other fighters that we've mentioned. All right, but I still want this fight too. You know, I want this fight too. I've wanted this fight. So I just want him to get better at this point before moving on and figuring out what's gonna move, where we're gonna go from here. All right. So the next bit of news: Conor, Benn, and Chris Eubank, according to Eddie Hearn, the fight is back on. They're trying to work everything out, and they're moving on from Eubank having his rematch from Liam Smith. Eddie Hearn has offered not Conor Benn, but Chris Eubank more money to fight Conor Benn than to fight Liam Smith. All right, so even though Eubank just lost to Liam Smith, he was stopped in all of that. That's the first time he's ever been stopped. He's most likely going to fight Conor Benn. My thoughts, look, at the end of the day, a lot has happened since the fight was originally planned, when it was originally supposed to go down. I love the build-up. I think it's one of the best build-up fights that we had. It's not a fight that I was really asking for. I know to the British fans, it's a big deal to them because of their dads. But it wasn't necessarily a fight that I was looking forward to. But I want to say in a week of the fight or leading up close to the fight, I started to get hyped because Chris Eubank did an amazing, phenomenal job building it up with the 60% thing, the Burger King, the constant eating leading up to the fight. And, what happened with Ben, he tested positive on drugs, and we already know what the mess. I already made countless videos, I made one video talking about it. I didn't go crazy with it, but doesn't even seem like there's any real proof that he is dirty on anything. And this has held everything up with his career. Eubank went on to fight Liam Smith, and he got knocked out in a huge upset to Liam Smith. So Conor Benn has lost a lot of credibility from this, right? And he's still dealing with the BBOC, trying to get that, the British Boxing Board of Control. He's still dealing with that. There's probably going to be a lawsuit when it comes to that at some point, right? And then now Eubank has taken an L. So I'm not from the UK. I don't know how big the fans are out there when it comes to this fight. I'm sure this fight is still big, but I think it took somewhat of a hit, being that Eubank just got knocked out, and then being that Ben is possibly coming off of a whole drug situation. I don't even want to say he tested dirty because I don't even know anymore. I don't know if he's clean. I don't know what the truth is, right? I've only made one video giving y'all the news of it, and I left it alone. And I'm glad I did, because I wasn't expecting all this stuff with the eggs and the WBC. All of this is a whole huge mess. And at this point, I haven't there's other channels that's updated you every step of the way. I haven't, because I'm just waiting to see what the final decision is going to be. Is Ben going to fight, or is he not? Most likely, if he does fight, he doesn't have his license right now because it's suspended out in England. But most likely they're gonna have this fight somewhere, maybe in Saudi Arabia, maybe in another country somewhere. So I don't really know. But at the end of the day, they're looking like to really make this Eubank fight and with Ben, and I understand fight. They don't want to risk Chris Eubank getting another loss by fighting Liam Smith Jr. Let's just say it wasn't a lucky punch, and he happens to lose again in a rematch. Then it's really going to make the Ben fight take a real hit financially, because people is just not going to really believe that, Chris Eubank is that good. People are just not going to be hyped enough about it. All right, but we'll just wait and see. I know Liam Smith was the mandatory to fight Janibek. I don't know if that's still on the table or not. I have no idea. All right, maybe they could still work something out with that. Maybe if he wants the title opportunity, maybe he still will get that opportunity. But we just got to wait and see. I really don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on with that. All right. Deontay Wilder. Now, there's a lot of talk on what's going to happen. Joshua just beat Franklin yesterday. Tyson Fury is available. We don't know who his next opponent is. Joe Joyce is going to be fighting. He's going to be fighting. Jesus Christ. Zhilei Zhang next in a couple of weeks, right? So he's busy with that. Triple D, he's a mandatory for Usyk's title for the WBA. He is actually the actual mandatory. So It's a lot of stuff going on because Usyk has 3 titles and he has 3 mandatories, all right? But one of them is available right now, and one of them is up in the list of the 3 mandos. He has Daniel Dubois with the WBA. He has Hrgovic with the IBF, I believe, and then he has Joe Joyce, who's with the WBO, all right? And he's scheduled to fight in a couple weeks. Wilder is now officially ranked with the WBA, and he just moved to the #1 position. So he's not the mandatory, but now he's #1 on the WBA's list, all right, above Martin Bakole, right, who is coming off a win against Tony Yoka. So how do I feel about that? Well, I do want to fight with Usyk, but I don't like the way the WBA has been moving their fighters around with their rankings. You can't justify the movements they make. Even with Wilder, as much as I want to see Wilder fight Usyk, I would love to see that fight, just like I want to see Wilder fight Anthony Joshua and all these other guys, even Joe Joyce. That would be great. You can't justify the WBA in the way that they make these rankings. They don't make any sense. How did Trevor Bryan become the world champion? Why was he the world champion? Who did he beat? That was relevant. How do you justify Daniel Dubois moving right to the #1 spot after losing to Joe Joyce and him being a mando ahead of Joe Joyce to fight for Usyk titles? It doesn't make sense. So the WBA are randomly putting people in position for certain fights, and it looks very corrupt, all right? It looks like the politics is heavy involved with the WBA. You can't justify any of these movings. Wilder, of course, I would love for him to get an opportunity to fight Usyk, but I don't think Wilder should be ahead, right, of if Wilder and Usyk fight, great. But the way that they're moving him around, like moving certain people around like that ahead of other fighters and stuff, is just not right. And I'm going to stick it. I'm going to be consistent because they're doing this with many divisions. And they got to get rid of this junior world title thing. You should have one title. The WBA title, yes, in certain situations, you should have an interim champ. But as far as having like a world and a super and all of that, it just causes more confusion. And it puts people, it's like a chessboard. You're putting people in positions that they don't belong there and haven't earned their spot there. So I'm all for the Wilder fight, and I've said this on countless videos. I would love to see Usyk and Wilder fight each other. If Usyk can't get in there with Fury or Wilder can't get in there with Joshua, make the Usyk fight. But the way that they're doing and going about it, I'm not really a fan of that. All right. And last but not least today, Anthony Yarde, Joe Smith Jr. possibly in June, July. Frank Warren is talking with Bob Arum. We already know they have a relationship. They do business together. Yarde is looking to come back. Joe Smith is looking to come back, make the fight. They both just lost to Arthur Beterbiev. They both were stopped. Obviously, Yarde put on the better fight, the better performance. But Joe Smith Jr. is more seasoned, and he has a better resume than Anthony Yarde overall. You know what? Make the fight happen. They both are respected in the 175 division. They both have power. It should be a fun fight and make it happen. I would love to see that fight. I don't know where they would have it, but I would love to see that fight. Make the fight happen, and I'm excited, and it should work. It should work out. It's dangerous for both because whoever loses this fight is going to really be down bad, but it's a great opportunity for one of them to pick up a win and move forward and pick up another big fight opportunity. Maybe not a championship opportunity because Smith has lost to both champions. He has lost to Bivol. He's lost to Beterbiev. We get it. Yarde has lost to Kovalev. He's lost to Beterbiev as well. But whoever wins this fight, it's kind of like a crossroads fight. Like whoever wins this, they need to win bad. Because taking another L might put them in journeyman type of status, and Yarde or Smith don't really want to be there. All right, but I think a win will get them back in the mix with another top contender that may lead to them getting another championship level fight. in the future. And there's a lot of fights to be made at 175, and there's a lot of money right there. You know, especially if you got guys like Canelo still in the mix at 175, even though he's mainly campaigning at 168, he can go up to 175 for any fight at any time, right? And then, you know, you got Benavidez, who's at 168, but eventually he'll probably go to 175. And then you got all the fighters that's currently there, like Bivol, like Better BF, like Callum Smith. You know, there's a lot of fighters up there, a lot of fights to be made. So, I'm looking forward to this if they actually make the fight. I would love for them to make this fight. All right. So anyway, that's it for today. Please subscribe to the channel. All right. Smash that like button. Share the video if you can. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.